This happened back in the 90s. We were driving through Oahu, going from Waialua on the north shore to Honolulu. It was a peaceful trip at first. The road started to wind through the valley as we got closer to Wahiawa. That's when I saw her. A girl walking along the side of the road. She was barefoot. Her long black hair hung down over her face. I couldn't see her eyes. I couldn't see her mouth. Her whole face was covered. She looked just like the girl from The Ring. But this was before that movie even existed. Something about her was wrong. She was walking slowly, like she didn't feel anything, just moving forward, quiet and alone. I stared at her as we drove past. A chill ran down my spine. She didn't even flinch when the car came close. I asked everyone else in the car, "Did you see that girl?" But no one had. Not one person saw her except me. They looked at me like I was joking, but I wasn't. I kept watching the road behind us. She was gone, vanished, nowhere to be seen. That road stretched for miles. There was no place for her to hide. It didn't make sense. I felt cold and uneasy. Not long after that, we reached Wahiawa. That's when we saw the flashing lights, police cars, fire trucks, an ambulance. A terrible car crash had just happened. The road was blocked, and we had to slow down. I saw the wreck. It looked fresh, glass everywhere. A car crushed in the front. People standing around, shocked. My heart sank. Something felt wrong deep in my gut. That girl. Was she real? Was she even alive? A terrifying thought came over me. What if the girl I saw had died in that crash? What if her spirit had left the wreck and started walking back toward Waialua, her home? Maybe she didn't know she was dead. Maybe she was just trying to go back. That thought has haunted me for years. No one else saw her but me. She didn't look human. She looked like something in pain, something lost. I still remember those bare feet, that hair, and the silence. That cold, heavy silence. It was late one night in 1988. I was driving to work at Hilo Hospital. I worked the night shift as a nurse. The road was dark, wet and foggy. I was on North Kulani, halfway to the highway. It was raining hard. My headlights barely cut through the mist. That's when I saw her, a woman. She stood on the side of the road. She had long dark hair and wore a flowing white nightgown. She looked soaked from the rain, but she didn't move. She didn't seem scared or cold. She just stood there, completely still. I slowed down to about 25 miles per hour. As a nurse, my first thought was maybe she was a psych patient. Who else would be out here like that? At this hour, in the rain. I pulled up beside her slowly. I was going to roll down my window and ask if she needed help. But just as I turned to look at her, she was gone. She vanished. Completely gone. 1 second she was there, the next she wasn't. I was stunned. There was nowhere she could have gone. No houses, no cover, just thick forest and empty road. I knew I had seen a real woman, not a shadow, not fog. She was standing right there. I drove the rest of the way to work in silence. My heart wouldn't stop racing. When I got to the hospital, I told my co-workers. I even called my husband to tell him what happened. Everyone said the same thing. It was a good thing she didn't get into my van. I never saw her again, but I still remember her face and that soaking white dress. I later learned many believe that was Tutu Pele, the goddess of fire. They say she appears on the roads at night. They say you must show respect. Hilo Hospital itself is also not right. It's haunted. Room 308 is the worst. Labor rooms 1 and 5 are just as bad. Lights flicker, voices whisper, and shadows move where they shouldn't. Our head nurse had a kupuna bless our unit 3 times in 20 years. I saw things there I still can't explain. Some nights, I still feel like she's watching. About 15 years ago, I was in upstate New York with my uncle. We were at our old family house. It's deep in the countryside, very quiet. Not many people live nearby. One evening, we were outside when it started to rain hard. The rain came down fast, so we went inside. We stood by the front door, watching the storm. My uncle said how hard it was raining. It was very dark outside, no streetlights, just the porch light shining into the blackness. As we looked out, we saw something. A person was walking fast down the road. It was hard to see them at first, but their skin was very pale. So pale, it almost glowed in the dark. We could see their arms swinging as they walked. Then they turned their head toward us. That's when I saw their face. It had no eyes, just smooth, pale skin where the eyes should be. I froze. My uncle quickly shut the door. He locked it and told me not to worry. He said maybe it was just someone stuck in the rain, but I was terrified. I knew what I saw. That face didn't look human. I couldn't forget it. My uncle sat near the window for a long time after that. He kept watch like he was afraid it would come back. I was still young, so I tried to forget. For years, I didn't think about it. Then one day, I asked him about it. I thought maybe I dreamed it. But when I mentioned it, his whole mood changed. He got quiet. His eyes looked distant. All he said was, "I remember, but I don't want to talk about it." That was it. He never said another word about it. I never brought it up again. Even now, when I think about that pale face, I get chills. It felt real. Too real to be a dream. The way it turned and looked at us, like it knew we were watching, like it wanted us to see. I've never seen anything like it again. I hope I never do. Something was out there in the rain that night, and it wasn't human. The basement in my dad's house is almost completely finished. Only the storage room is bare and dark. It sits around the corner from the main recreation area. In the finished part, there is an elliptical machine. When you stand on the elliptical and look over your shoulder, you can see half of the storage room door. That door leads into a pitch-black, closet-like space. It always felt creepy to me. One day, I was house-sitting and decided to work out. I turned on the elliptical and started moving. The basement was quiet. The only sound was my shoes on the pedals. After a few minutes, I felt like someone was standing just behind me. My heart skipped a beat. I glanced over my shoulder and froze. In the half-open doorway of the storage room, there was a dark figure. It looked human-shaped, but it was almost too still to be a person. Its skin was so dark I could barely see it. The only thing I could make out were its eyes. They glowed a pale grey, and they stared right at me. I knew I was alone in the house. No one else could be down there. I could feel my chest tighten. My legs went weak. I slowly stepped off the elliptical, trying not to make a sound. The figure did not move. It just watched me. I backed away, my breath catching in my throat. I quietly slipped into the bathroom to hide. The bathroom door clicked shut behind me. I crouched by the sink, my back against the cold tile wall. I tried to calm my breathing, but it felt impossible. My mind raced. Was it a ghost, a spirit, or just a trick of the light? But there was no trick. I had seen those grey eyes. After what felt like an hour, I convinced myself to be bold. I needed to get out of the basement. I stole a glance toward the storage door and saw the figure had not budged. The basement was silent. I made my choice. I bolted out of the bathroom and ran past the storage room. My heart pounded in my ears as I dashed up the stairs. I didn't look back until I reached the top. That was not the first time I had seen that grey-eyed figure in my dad's house. It had appeared to me before, always lingering in that dark doorway. Each time, the eyes glowed just as pale and cold. Each time, I was forced to flee. I still have no explanation for what I saw, but I know what I saw was real, and it still haunts me. I was about to cross the street one evening when a woman suddenly put her arm across my chest and said, "Wait." She came out of nowhere. I didn't hear her footsteps or see her coming. As I looked at her, Confused and trying to figure out what was happening, a terrible crash happened right in front of me. A speeding car slammed into another and one of them flipped, tumbling down the street, just 2 feet from where I was about to step. If she hadn't stopped me, I would have been hit. I would have died. My heart was pounding as I turned to thank her, but she was gone, just like that. I looked around, but there was no sign of her. The road was empty. I could see for blocks in every direction. No one running, no one walking away. She didn't fade into the crowd because there was no crowd. She didn't duck into a car because there were none nearby. It was like she had never been there at all, but I know she was. I felt her hand. I heard her voice. Still, the crash was real. Metal twisting, glass breaking, screams echoing, and yet she vanished. I tried to convince myself, maybe it was all in my head. Maybe my brain made her up to cope with the shock of almost dying. But it didn't feel that way. It felt real, too real. And I've never seen anything strange or supernatural before or since. Just that one moment. And now, whenever I pass that same intersection, I can't help but feel like someone's still there, watching me, waiting, just in case I need saving again. My friend and I were driving late at night on the big island of Hawaii. We had just finished playing a gig in Kona and were heading to Hilo. We took Saddle Road, a long, dark stretch of highway with no lights, no houses, and nothing but lava rock on both sides. People say strange things happen there. Locals talk about spirits, ghosts, and things that should not be seen. It was around 1 a.m. We were in a good mood, laughing and sharing stories. Then everything changed. On the side of the road, we both saw something. It was a huge white dog. It was just standing there, very still, almost like it was waiting for us. It had a gold chain around its neck and glowing eyes that stared directly at us as we drove by. It didn't bark. It didn't move. It just stood there and watched. We kept driving, but the car went silent. A heavy feeling came over us. I finally asked, "Did you see that?" My friend said, "Yeah, the white dog with the chain." We didn't know what to think. For a moment, we thought about going back. Maybe the dog was lost, but something told us not to. Something deep in our stomachs felt wrong. Then we remembered an old legend. People say that if you see a strange figure on Saddle Road, like an old woman, you must stop and help, or something bad will happen. Some say it's the goddess Pele in disguise. But this wasn't an old woman. It was a dog. Still, the fear felt the same. We didn't stop. We didn't say another word until we got home. Later, I told a local man what we saw. His face got serious. He said, "That was Pele's dog." He told me the dog has been seen on that road since the 1950s. It only appears at night, always white, always wearing a gold chain, always watching. Some say it's a warning. Others think it protects the road. I don't know what we saw, but I still remember those eyes. I still feel that chill, and I'm glad we didn't stop. We were driving on Saddle Road late at night after a canoe race. The road was dark, but the moonlight let us see the shapes of the lava fields and the outline of Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. There were 4 of us in the car. Everything felt quiet, too quiet. Then, out of nowhere, the car just stopped. No lights, no engine, no sound. It was like something reached into the car and turned it off. I coasted to the side of the road. The air was completely still. No wind, no crickets, nothing. I got out and checked the battery, thinking maybe a wire came loose, but everything looked fine. I tried to start the car again, but it was just dead. We waited. We were all getting nervous. There were no other cars, no lights on the road, and no cell signal. Just the cold lava rock all around us. Time passed. It was already well after midnight. Then one of my teammates suddenly said she had bananas in her backpack. It reminded us of the old Hawaiian stories. Pork and bananas are sacred offerings to the gods, especially Pele, the goddess of fire. We looked around, and the land felt heavy, like it was watching us. My teammate took the bananas, walked a few feet into the lava field, and placed them down. We all followed her and stood in silence. We spoke out loud to Pele. We asked for forgiveness if we had offended her. We said we were sorry and asked for safe passage. The air stayed still, but the feeling began to change. It felt less heavy, like something had lifted. We returned to the car, nervous but hoping. I got in and turned the key. The engine started immediately, no hesitation, just like nothing had happened. We didn't speak for a while. We just drove, careful and quiet, until we reached the lights of town. I still think about that night. It felt like something more than coincidence, like someone was there in the dark, listening, watching, and waiting for respect. When I was a child, both my parents went to work early, so they would drop me off at my grandmother's to eat breakfast and go to school from there. My grandmother died my junior year in high school, and I started coming straight home from school. During this time, my mother started complaining that when she got home from work, the receiver of the phone, an 80s-style corded push-button phone, next to her bed was left off the base. I wasn't using the phone, but she would insist I must have because the phone was hung up properly when she left for work. One day, I got home a little early. Now, I need to pause and tell you about the layout of our apartment. From the front door, I looked directly into the living room, the dining room, the door to the kitchen, and the short hallway that led to my parents' bedroom and my bedroom. There was no other door. The windows were old-fashioned, narrow casement windows with screens, and we were on the 3rd floor. Anyway, as soon as I walked in the door, I clearly heard 2 footsteps in my parents' bedroom. I dropped my school bag and foolishly ran to the bedroom. It wasn't far and took only a few seconds. I got to the bedroom and no one was there. However, I immediately noticed that the receiver of the phone on my mother's bedside table was on the floor. It was placed so that the cord to the base was stretched out as far as it could go. I later tried to replicate the placement by shaking the table, tipping the phone, etc. I could never get the receiver off the base. When I finally resorted to knocking it off with a finger, it would fall on the table or next to it. The only way I could replicate the placement of the receiver where I found it was to carefully stretch the cord, place it, and hold it for a few moments. It could not have gotten to that spot by accident. When I found the phone, I hung it up, and it immediately rang. I answered it, and it was my dad. He asked what was wrong. I asked him why he asked. He said he had called, apparently just before I got home, and someone, he thought it was me, answered the phone but never said anything. He finally hung up and had been trying to call back and only got through after I hung up the phone. I've never figured out what happened. I definitely heard footsteps, and I'm just as certain there was no one there. No one went by me. The windows in the bedroom were not disturbed, and my parents had too much stuff under the bed and in the closet for anyone bigger than an infant to hide in either spot. Also, after this, my mother never found the phone disturbed again. There was an abandoned house out in the middle of nowhere. It took about 30 minutes of winding back roads to reach it. No other buildings or people were within 10 miles in any direction. The house sat alone, dark and silent, surrounded by overgrown weeds and broken down fences. My friends and I, all high school kids, liked to check it out. We would drive out there 3 or 4 times, each visit taking a different friend along. We thought it was spooky and wanted to show it off. Each time, we pulled up and explored the dark rooms by flashlight. There was never any power, no lights on inside, just the sound of creaky floorboards and the wind moaning through broken windows. We never saw another person or any car near the house. One night, we decided to bring 2 friends at once. The air was cold and still. The moon was hidden behind clouds. We drove through the black woods until we saw the old house looming ahead. We parked on the side of the road and stepped out of the car. As soon as we looked up, we saw a single light switch on inside the house. It was a yellow glow, flickering from an upstairs window. We froze. Our hearts pounded. None of us spoke. The house had no electricity any of the other nights we were there. No one had been inside, No cars were parked around back. Yet there was that light, flickering like someone was in the room, watching us. We felt fear spike right through us. The light stayed on for several seconds. Then it shut off just as quickly as it had come on. We rushed back to the car and slammed the doors. None of us dared to look back. Our hands shook as we started the engine. We peeled away from that place and didn't stop until we got to a well-lit gas station, safe and trembling. In hindsight, we guessed the house was probably a hunting cabin, or maybe a meth lab. People could have turned the breakers off when they left and flipped a light on when they came back. A car might have been hidden behind the trees where we couldn't see it. But at 15 or 16 years old, we did not think about that. We only knew we saw a light turn on in a house that was supposed to be empty. We never went back. Even now, I still get chills thinking about that single light in the upstairs window, shining out of the darkness.